This computer here is busy doing a big export. This computer here is busy doing a big export. If you come through with me, my tether trolley, also busy doing a big export. So 3 out of my 4 computers, the 3 Mac ones, are all busy. So whilst that's going on, I'm going to try and do a shoot without being able to tether, and we're going to have a go at photographing an ice lolly. Excuse the racket in the background. These have been running for the last 8 hours. The fans are in overdrive mode. Today's video is a little bit different because I sort of ran out of computer space. All my machines are busy, so what I've decided to do is this. I've grabbed some ice lollies out of the freezer, I've rigged a little setup together, and all we've done is photographed it repeatedly every few seconds until it turns into a kind of stop motion type video. And in this particular video, I'm going to show you how I lit it, how I set it up, how I shot it, and how I edited it together to give us some really cool social media content. Let's crack on. So here's how we did it. First of all, the ice cream was set up like so. We had the ice lolly or popsicle stick, I'm not sure what you call them in different parts of the world. And that was held in a C-clamp, which then had a spigot going into an umbrella bracket. And then it travels along here onto a good old C-stand, which is pretty useful. Camera-wise, I was rocking the Canon 5DSR with the 100mm Milvus, sort of f13, 100 ISO, 100th of a second. I've got a Tether Tools cable in there, but we weren't tethering because of the computer issue. But what I was doing was mains powering, which is this one, and also using an old-fashioned PC sync cord to fire the flash because it had to fire. And anything radio trigger-wise, just a bit more of a risk than we needed. Then to get the shots, I had this intervalometer here, which is a time-lapse device, and it tells the camera to fire every so often. I chose 4 seconds. It seemed to be a good marker for this sort of job. That was a key light. We had the Broncolor Hazy up here, coming in from camera left at sort of a 45 degree to the left, 45 degree down angle. And then the background was lit by a pulsar head over here with one of the big reflectors, which is nice and specular. And then I just pulled in a bit of a scrim here, not a scrim, a flag. This thing here, a flag. Just to stop the light from like bleeding into the image, and that worked really well. So why did I go for this setup? Well, I wanted the blue summery sky, which is an aesthetic I was going for. Not for any other reason than I fancied it. This here was going to give me great catch lights, nice even light, and nice sort of like, and a nice fall off with the distance and size of it. It's pretty crisp for a diffused light. And then because I was lighting it from so close, the fall off was so high that the blue background was going to go dark if I didn't have this light here, just sort of helping me balance things out. Okay then, so I've just brought these into Lightroom. I'd normally use Capture One for this, but I know that Lightroom's a bit more popular, so we'll go with this for now. Now, I wasn't shooting tethered, so I couldn't really see what I was getting, so I'm not great at looking at the tiny screen on the back of a phone, but I'm pretty happy with this. So let's do our black and our white point. I'm gonna go too black in this sort of image and nor too white. There we go, I'm gonna open those shadows a teeny bit, loads of texture, little bit less clarity than that, there we go. And I don't normally do this, but I'm going to up the vibrancy. I normally go for the exact opposite, so go before and after. Just added a little bit of punch. Now the red's a bit dark for my liking, so I'm just going to bump that up in the HSL slider. Maybe a little lift on the orange as well. Green I'm quite happy with. I'm just going to add a bit of sharpening, but again, not too much. I'm going to mask it really tight around the image. There we go. Now, last thing to do is crop, because this is going on the gram. So let's go for a 5:7. It just gives a bit more to play with and more on Instagram later. Let's close that, so I'm not backed up since yesterday. Right, now here's the important bit. All we have to do now is sync the lot. Now obviously I did a few different shots. We're just going to look at the first one. So I'm going to rapidly scroll through here until I realise, there we go, that it's gone. I'll click about here. Synchronise that. Synchronise everything. And then we're going to export it. Now, this is where you can make a real hash of things. When we export, it's very important that we use the sequential number sequence so that when we pull it into Premiere Pro afterwards to make the video, it knows that frame 1 goes frame 2, then frame 3, frame 4, and so on and so forth. If you just use the file names, it can't work it out, or any other bizarre thing like date and everything. So that's how we're going to do it. But first of all, let's wait for these settings to paste. It's going to take a minute because these are 50 megapixel files, which may have been overkill for an Instagram post, but the camera was already on the tripod, so what are you going to do? So here we go, we've got them all highlighted. Right click and export. Now, someone's going to tell me I'm doing this wrong, I'm sure. There are millions of different settings you can go for. This is just to be used on Instagram and for content within this. We're going to go pretty low res here. So we're going to call this, see last one we did a big lapse, called Monster Lapse. Ice Lolly 1. Ice Lolly. And the important bit here is you have custom name and sequence. So it'll be Ice Lolly -1, -2, -3 starting at 1. That's very important because it's how Premiere Pro allows you to make the time lapse. I'm going to keep it at its actual size, but drop the DPI down. I'm sure I should be doing something there, but I'm not going to. Let's just leave it like that. I'm going to hit export and wait for my laptop to take off. It's always a bad sign when the preparing to export bit comes up rather than just cracking straight on with it. There goes 693 50 megapixel files being shrunk down to WebRes-ish. Now, because of the size of these files, I have to sort of do this in advance, but I'm going to talk through how we make the actual sort of video from these images. So we press Command-I in Premiere Pro. We go into our Ice Lolly. We select image number 1. You see what it says -1, that's very important. Go to Options, Image Sequence, and Import. Now, I'm not going to drag this particular one into the timeline because I've already made one with proxy files, which will make my life a lot easier. Well, at least my laptop's life a lot easier. So we'll drag this in here. I'm going to change sequence settings so it fits this weird aspect ratio. And we'll see if it actually manages to play. Now, I'm running a 6-year-old laptop for this particular task, so it's not ideal. And there we go, so it's playing along. Now, the flickering I want to talk about, because the reason I did this was actually to test for a job coming up. It looks like inconsistent lighting, but it's not. The lighting is absolutely bang on. What it is the aperture inside the lens. When it opens and closes shot to shot, there's a variation in it, which is causing the flickering. So in order to get past this, you need to have a lens which has a manual aperture selection where you literally click it into place like a T lens or an old lens before like aperture priority became a thing, and then fix it into position so those aperture blades are not actually moving. Whereas with this particular lens, every time you fire it, it opens and closes. Obviously, the best way to avoid this, if that's not an option, is to shoot wide open, but that's not really an option for me. And to be honest, for the type of video that this works absolutely fine. It does the job. And it serves its purpose for a quick Instagram post.